Close your eyes for a moment. Feel the air around you, gentle, quiet, unhurried. There is no pressure here, no urgency, just a quiet invitation to come home to yourself. Tonight is not about fixing. It's not about solving. It's about allowing your body to exhale, allowing your mind to soften, and allowing your spirit to simply rest. You've made it through the day. Whatever it held, you're here now. That matters. That's enough. Take a slow breath in through your nose and feel your chest rise. Now exhale gently and notice the weight leaving your shoulders. Let this breath be your bridge from thinking to being, from tension to trust. There is no need to analyze anything right now. No need to judge yourself for what you did or didn't do. This space was made for your peace, for your heart to unclench, for your nervous system to remember, I am safe. Maybe your mind has been racing. Maybe it's been holding on to thoughts that echo with worry or regret. That's okay. You don't have to push them away. Just notice them, like clouds in the sky, and gently return to your breath. Inhale, presence. Exhale, pressure. There is nothing wrong with you for feeling tired, for needing quiet, for yearning for peace. In fact, those longings are signs of wisdom. They're your inner self asking to be heard, not judged. So here's what I ask of you tonight. Be tender with yourself. Be as kind as you would be to a small child who's had a hard day. Offer yourself warmth instead of criticism, stillness instead of striving. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are not alone. You are in a moment of pause. And sometimes, pause is the most powerful thing we can offer ourselves. As we begin this journey together tonight, let's walk softly. Let's listen gently. Let's explore what it means to rest, not just the body, but the mind and soul. You don't have to do anything but breathe. Let's begin, not with effort, but with ease. Imagine the night sky for a moment. Vast, unmoving, speckled with stars older than memory. There's something eternal about it, an ancient living stillness. The stars don't strive, the moon doesn't hustle. The darkness isn't empty, it's a cocoon, a shelter, a womb where everything is quietly becoming. Night is not the end of something, it's the beginning. It's where the soil receives the fallen leaf, where roots grow in unseen silence, where dreams are stirred from the embers of exhaustion. And you, dear listener, are not broken or lost. You are in a cycle, a rhythm, like the tides, like the moon phases, like breath itself. Tonight is your time to retreat, not in fear, but in sacred restoration. Imagine wrapping yourself in the softest fabric of shadow and moonlight. Let your thoughts drift like clouds. Let the pressure dissolve into dusk. You're not running away from life by resting. You're returning to it. The truest version of life. The one that moves beneath achievement and noise. The version rooted in being. This nighttime is your reminder that you don't have to glow constantly to be worthy. Even the stars take turns shining. Even the sun trusts the moon. Let this darkness be your ally. Let it hold the parts of you that feel frayed or tired. You do not have to fix yourself tonight. You are not a project. You are a person, and people need time to unfold. As you rest here in this cocoon of breath and presence, let yourself believe that something inside you is already healing. Not because you forced it, but because you allowed it. And to help you trust in this invisible renewal, Let me share a story with you. A story about someone who once thought they had to keep pushing until the night finally taught them how to soften.
Her name was Marin. Marin was the kind of person who carried silent storms. On the outside, she was composed, efficient, the one others leaned on. But behind her eyes lived an ocean, waves of doubt, waves of guilt, crashing against every attempt to rest. Each night, Marin lay in bed staring at the ceiling, rehearsing her flaws. Did I say the wrong thing? Did I do enough today? Why can't I feel joy like everyone else seems to? And so, she worked harder, stayed up later, pushed past exhaustion. She believed that if she just did a little more, the anxiety would fade. But it didn't. It grew. One winter evening, she burned out. Her body shut down, not dramatically, but quietly. She couldn't get out of bed. Her chest felt like stone. Her thoughts moved like sludge. A friend came to visit. She sat by Marin's bed and said, "You don't have to earn rest, Marin. You're allowed to just be tired." It struck her like thunder wrapped in velvet. She had never been told that before. That rest wasn't a reward, it was a right. In the weeks that followed, Marin began to unlearn the belief that she had to be strong all the time. She started small, noticing the way sunlight hit her window, allowing herself to cry without rushing to justify it, choosing sleep over another task. Some days were harder than others, but slowly, the storm inside her began to quiet. Not because she solved everything, but because she stopped running from herself. Marin discovered that resilience wasn't about endurance. It was about self-trust, about knowing when to pause, when to breathe, when to listen to the whispers within before they became screams. And most of all, she learned that healing is not linear. It's cyclical, like seasons, like the moon, like breath. And reflecting on Marin's experience brings us to an important truth about how growth often hides in plain sight. Growth, despite what we're often told, is not a straight path paved with clarity. It's more like a forest trail, winding, messy, unpredictable, and yet so profoundly alive. Think of a tree for a moment. Not just the graceful trunk or the green canopy, but what lies beneath, roots stretching deep into soil, gripping the earth, unseen but essential. The tree does not grow taller by resisting the wind. It bends, it sways, it holds, and with each storm, its foundation grows stronger. Marin's experience, like so many of ours, reminds us that it's often the cracks in our structure that let in light and oxygen. That our growth is shaped not just by triumph, but by tension. By the nights we question everything and still wake up the next morning willing to try again. Neuroplasticity, the brain's capacity to change and adapt, happens not in comfort, but in challenge. In the moments we think we've reached our edge and choose not to numb or flee, but to feel, to stay present, to breathe through it. And when we feel shame, when our inner critic gets loud, it's not a sign that we're weak. It's often a sign that an old story is being stirred. Stories we learned when we were too young to understand they weren't ours to carry. But shame doesn't have to shape us. It can signal the start of something new, a chance to replace harsh inner dialogue with compassion. Not to excuse what hurt us, but to reclaim who we are underneath it all. Like clay in a fire, we're molded by what we endure, not ruined by it. The heat doesn't break us, it reveals us. So, if you felt lost lately, or tender, or tired of pretending you're okay, you're not failing. You're unfurling. You're in the middle of becoming. Let go of the timeline. Let go of the need to be anywhere other than where you are. Just like Marin, you're allowed to find strength in softness, in stillness, in choosing presence over perfection. And perhaps the clearest reminders of this truth show up not in grand victories, but in the quiet beauty of small,
everyday gratitude.
There was a man named Theo. Theo's life, by all accounts, was modest. He lived alone in a small flat above a bakery, worked evenings shelving books at a library, and spent most mornings walking the same quiet path along a canal near his home. He used to think life had passed him by. No partner, no children, no big achievements that could be framed and hung on a wall. When he scrolled through social media or listened to colleagues chat about promotions and travel, a dull ache would settle behind his ribs. But something shifted one October morning. He was walking the canal, wrapped in a thick scarf, leaves crunching beneath his boots. The air was cold enough to make his eyes water, and for a moment, he stopped. Something about the stillness, the pale sunlight resting on the water, the quiet rustle of the reeds, caught him completely. He felt grateful. Not for anything big, just for this. For breath, for warmth, for the fact that he could notice it. And from that day on, Theo began to treat his walks not as routine, but as ritual. He noticed the way frost painted the leaves in winter, the way ducks glided without effort, the way his heartbeat sounded louder when the world was quiet. It didn't erase his pain. It didn't make his loneliness disappear, but it gave his days texture, meaning. Moments that felt like tiny blessings tucked inside the ordinary. He started keeping a small notebook. At the end of each day, he would write down one moment he was thankful for, not to impress anyone, but to remind himself that he was still part of life's unfolding. Some entries were barely a sentence. The smell of fresh bread through the floorboards. A child waved at me on the bus. Found a book with someone else's notes in the margins. Over time, these little notes became a lifeline. When the nights felt heavy or the days stretched thin, he would read back and see a mosaic of tiny wonders, proof that his life, while quiet, was vivid. One evening, Theo helped an elderly woman find a poetry book she had loved as a child. When she opened it and found the very poem she remembered, she began to cry. Theo sat beside her in silence, offering a tissue from his coat. She looked at him and said, "You remind me that people still see each other." That night, Theo wrote, "I made someone feel less alone." That one entry stayed with him for weeks. It wasn't grand, but it was true, and that truth became his anchor. Theo learned that gratitude doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers, and if you slow down enough, you begin to hear it everywhere. This reflection opens a doorway into something essential, something many of us were never taught. That loving yourself isn't a luxury or a trend. It's survival. It's how we begin to feel real again after years of numbing, pleasing, or shrinking. Let's explore this together. Self-love is often misunderstood. It's not always about bubble baths or affirmations in the mirror, though those things can help. Sometimes, self-love is grittier, quieter. It's choosing not to criticize yourself when you're already in pain. It's pausing before saying yes just to avoid disappointing someone. It's speaking gently to the parts of you that learn to cope by hiding. Through Theo's story, we saw what it means to find meaning in stillness. That's what self-love does. It gives your soul permission to exist outside of achievement. Psychologists call this reparenting, learning to treat yourself with the same care you needed but didn't receive in your formative years. That doesn't mean blaming. It means soothing, protecting, listening, saying, "You don't have to earn kindness tonight." Cognitive reframing, another powerful tool, helps shift the narrative from "I'm failing" to "I'm learning." From "I'm too much" to "I was never meant to be small." From "Why can't I get it right" to "Maybe I'm already enough, even in this moment of confusion."
These aren't mantras you force. They're truths you begin to believe as you show up for yourself again and again. Think of self-love as emotional self-rescue. When the inner critic gets loud, you don't argue with it. You sit beside it like a scared child and say, "You don't have to shout. I hear you, but we're safe now." The more you practice this kind of inner dialogue, the more your nervous system recalibrates. You begin to feel less urgency to please, fix, or perform. You start to trust that your worth isn't up for debate. This shift, this internal reorientation, is how healing begins. It's not flashy, it's not linear, but it's real. And it lays the foundation for everything else. So if all you've done today is survive, if you showed up despite fear, if you made space for even one breath of stillness, that is not small, that is sacred. And now, having explored these two stories, Marin's and Theo's, we invite your own story forward. Not to be judged or solved, but simply heard. Let's move now into reflection, a quiet space where your inner wisdom can rise to the surface, gently and without pressure.
This next chapter invites your voice into the quiet. We've explored stories of others, Marin's strength and surrender, Theo's gratitude and simplicity, and now the space gently opens for you. Not to be evaluated, but to be heard. Not to perform, but to listen inward. Take a slow, deep breath. Let your body sink just a little deeper into whatever is holding you, your bed, your chair, the ground beneath you. Know that in this moment, there is nowhere else you need to be. Nothing you must figure out, nothing you have to prove. This is a place of listening. As you breathe, consider this question. When was the last time I offered myself the kind of compassion I so easily give others? You don't need to answer aloud, just notice what arises. A feeling, a memory, maybe even resistance. Let it all come without judgment. Tonight, I want to ask you not to push anything away. Whatever you've been carrying, be it grief, anger, regret, confusion, see if you can hold it the way you'd hold a frightened animal, gently, without force. Not to fix it, but to say, "I see you. You matter." Let's go deeper. What part of you has been waiting the longest to be heard? Is it the child who felt invisible? The teenager who learned to hide? The adult who's been performing strength while quietly aching inside? Breathe into that part of you. Let them know you're allowed to exist. You're allowed to feel. And now ask yourself, what does safety feel like to me? Not the kind others define, but the kind that lives in your bones. Is it stillness, warmth, a quiet presence? Take a few moments here. Let your breath be your tether. Inhale slowly. Exhale longer. Let your heartbeat remind you, you're still here. You've survived every version of you up until now. Now ask, what do I long to hear tonight? Perhaps it's, "You're not alone," or "You're doing better than you think." Maybe it's just, "I love you." Whisper that to yourself now. Let the words land, even if they feel unfamiliar, especially if they do. One more breath in. One more breath out. You are not broken. You are becoming. And in this quiet space, may you begin to sense not answers, but gentleness. Not solutions, but presence. You are allowed to begin again, not tomorrow, not someday, but right now, in this breath. Let's carry this sense of stillness forward as we turn to one final story,
A story that reminds us that even in the smallest moments, our presence can shape the world in ways we'll never fully see.
Her name was Naya. Naya didn't have a long list of accolades. She wasn't famous, didn't have a large following, and never won awards. But to those who knew her, Naya was unforgettable. Not because of what she did, but because of how she made them feel. She worked as a cleaner in a community center. Most people passed her by without a second glance until they needed something. A misplaced wallet, a bandage, a kind word on a bad day. Naya always seemed to know who needed care before they said a word. There was no spotlight in her world, just fluorescent lights and mops and warm tea steeping in a thermos she always carried. And yet, something about her presence lingered in every room she entered. She noticed people, not their titles or clothes, but their silences, their pauses, their weight. She didn't try to fix anything. She simply stayed present. When a young man once burst into tears after losing his job, Naya sat beside him without speaking. She placed her hand gently on his back and said, "You don't have to hold it in here." Years later, he returned to that same center, now a counselor himself, and told the story of the woman who made him feel like it was okay to be seen when you're not okay. Naya wasn't trying to build a legacy. She just chose to care when it wasn't required. She watered the plants no one noticed. She remembered birthdays. She left small notes taped to lockers. "You're stronger than yesterday. Resting is brave. You matter." When she passed away, the center was flooded with stories. A child who'd always been afraid of reading aloud said Naya was the only adult who never corrected her, just listened. A janitor said Naya was the reason he stayed through the worst winter of his life. A nurse shared how Naya brought her soup in silence when her mother died. None of this was public. None of it performative. Naya lived her truth quietly, and in doing so, left behind ripples no one could measure. Her story reminds us, our worth is not in the monuments we build, but in the lives we touch. In our attention, our kindness, our choice to show up when no one's watching. If you've ever felt like you haven't done enough, remember Naya. Legacy is not built in headlines. It's built in eye contact, in listening, in holding the door a second longer. Your life doesn't have to be loud to be meaningful. And now, as we bring these stories to a close, we arrive at a gentle truth. Everything we've explored, resilience, gratitude, self-love, reflection, legacy, it all leads to one quiet invitation: to believe that change is possible, even in the stillness of night, even in you.
Right now, you might be holding questions. You might feel unsure about what's next. That's okay. This isn't a moment to map your future. It's a moment to remember that you are not finished. You are still unfolding. Just like Nia's quiet kindness, just like Theo's gratitude, just like Marin's courage to slow down, your presence, your softness, your willingness to try again. These are not small things. These are your power. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too late. Even if no one sees your effort, even if your heart feels weary, the fact that you are here, listening, breathing, caring enough to pause, that is the beginning of change. You don't have to have it all figured out. No one really does. But you can begin by believing that your story still matters. That healing is not a performance, but a returning to your breath, to your truth, to yourself. You are allowed to rewrite the voice in your head, to make it kinder, softer, more honest. Maybe tonight is the night you choose not to shrink, not to carry every burden. Maybe tonight is the night you say, "I deserve to rest without guilt. I deserve to feel safe in my own body. I deserve to be loved, even by me, because you do. You deserve peace, not because you earned it, but because you are human. And humans need rest, not just sleep. We need spaces where the armor can come off, where we can be soft without being unsafe. And if that space hasn't existed for you before, let this be the first one. Let it start here, with this breath. Let it start with the truth. You are not alone. Carry that with you into sleep. Let it hold you the way you've held others. Let it remind you that even now, even in your quietest hour, you are becoming something brave and beautiful. Not by force, but by presence. Let go now. Let go of the fear that you're too much or not enough. Let go of the voice that says change is for other people. Change is for you too. And it starts with this moment of stillness. It starts with saying yes to softness, to sleep, to hope. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to begin again. You're allowed to heal. And you don't have to do it alone.
Tonight, let your breath be soft and your heart be open. You've walked through stories of resilience, gratitude, and healing. You've returned to your breath, to your body, to the quiet knowing that you are worthy of peace. Let this final moment be an invocation, a gentle mantra to carry with you into sleep. I am safe. I am enough. I am becoming. I release what no longer serves me. I soften what I once hardened. I welcome rest without guilt, stillness without fear, sleep without shame. Even in silence, I am seen. Even in stillness, I am growing. Even in this breath, I am whole. Let your mind settle now. Let your muscles unwind. Let your nervous system remember what it's like to be held, not by another, but by presence itself. You are not a mistake. You are not too much. You are not too late. You are the quiet strength behind every moment you chose to stay. You are the soft voice that says, try again. You are the light returning slowly after long darkness. Rest now, without resistance, without apology. Let the night hold you. Let your soul exhale. Let yourself dream. You deserve peace tonight and every night after.